it starts with the data. We can get the numbers again. We get the numbers. We're able to talk with them through surveys. We're able to, yes, landscape mapping and sit and talk and things like that. And without that data, we couldn't show our impact to just put out a call to action. People without the data, it backs up what we're saying. It just really proves that we're out here doing the work and we're doing good, and it shows why you should support not just us, but the artisans that we're representing. So the long story short, I actually knew I wanted to be a journalist since I was 12. I was on my middle school newspaper. So all through high school, I kept that kind of going, and into college, I majored in journalism actually. Then I get to my senior year and I'm in City Hall. They're arguing about streetlights. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm waiting for them to conclude their story, and I decide I don't want to be a journalist anymore. Right before graduation, I think that December before graduation in May, I started just applying to jobs. And right after graduation, literally a month after graduation, I got my first real big girl job, and that was at a community foundation in my hometown of New Haven, Connecticut, as a communications officer. Prior to that, going backwards or rewinding, I had spent some time in the mayor's office in the city of New Haven for my internship as a communications intern. So I got a little taste of communications that way, but at that time I was still like, yeah, I'm going to be a journalist. I'm pretty sure I'm going into the political realm, on the political beat. I'm going to be a journalist. But I finally, that was like my first taste of communications. It's all in the same realm. A lot of people go to school for journalism and end up in communications and marketing. So I got my first taste with that. I got to help write the mayor's speeches. I managed City Hall's social media accounts. I was out at all the press conferences. I was getting press releases ready. I got to meet the local media. I got to build a relationship with the local media and things like that. So that's my really first taste. So then jumping back where I got my first job out of college at the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, I was a full-blown communications manager. I had already built those relationships at my internship with the press. So I was able to, do my pitches to the press, or, know who would be getting my press releases in the hands of. I had already built that relationship through my internship with the mayor. I got to do a lot of the social media as well, a lot of the the email marketing. And so I did all of our newsletters, both internal, every day. I had an internal newsletter to staff just to keep them abreast with what's going on in the community and what the work we're doing. You'd be surprised. A lot of people at the office may not actually know what's going on all around the office. And then our external communications, which is usually telling our donor stories and things like that, where actually data comes into play, where you're telling the donor stories of like why they donated and things like that, telling the stories out in the community with the nonprofits, and how our money helped them move their missions forward, and the impact it's having on the overall community. So from there, I was able to really build up as a communications officer. I was there for 4.5 years, and then I just moved over to Nest. I say just moved over. I'm actually coming up on 2 years at Nest, which is a nonprofit in NYC. When we work with artisans across the globe, connecting them with business opportunities, big brands that we work with. We have a lot of brand partners, from Hermes to Tory Burch to Target, brand partner, incredible brand partners. Etsy's a really great brand partner of ours. And we're able to connect them with these big brands to help them really grow their businesses and thrive. And that's actually been really fun. So I've been able to take all of this knowledge from my starting at my communications internship, going into communications officer, and now into communications manager. And I also manage our campaigns as well. So it's been a journey. It's been about 6.5 years doing all the math. Again, I'm a writer, not a mathematician in this field, but I've specifically only worked with mission-driven organizations and nonprofits. Even on my free time, I've done a lot of help with communications for campaigns. So I'm really motivated by organizations that have a mission and are really just doing good in the world. It makes me feel good when I'm doing the work, and I'm excited about it, and I'm glad I'm able to use my craft to kind of give back. So in the nonprofit world, a lot of they either do annual reports or impact reports. They usually comes in the beginning of the year after the previous year is concluded. That is chock full of data. It shows the impact we've had on the community. It shows where donor dollars have went. So it's not we're putting our money where, or you putting. Sorry, my alarm. And we go back. So my first interaction with the data has really been in going annual reports, impact reports, because in the nonprofit world, at the end of the year, you really have to speak out to the community and show what you have done. And you're really putting, I'd say, the donor's money where your mouth is. So you're able to show what you've been up to the whole year. And then you're also able to use that data to show, this is why you should support our cause. So that's kind of my first experience in data outside of just communications, because there's internal data we use as well. But I think those big data points are really effective, and then getting donations in, and again, just sharing our impact. My actual favorite campaign is a recent campaign, and it was for the airing of the Quilts Festival, again, for my nonprofit, Nest. Now, it was successful. It was the first festival for these quilters. Yeah, we work with the quilters in Gee's Bend. They're in a little area in Alabama. It's Gee's Bend, well, it's actually Boykin, Alabama, formerly known as Gee's Bend. And these ladies, they quilt. Their quilts are all across the nation, from the Met to DC. Their quilts are there, and they're world-renowned. Their quilts have been on celebrities. We've connected them with fashion brands. And Questlove was recently at the Grammys with a blazer that was quilted by these ladies. And they are just the most amazing women you can meet. So it was my mission to get people to this festival, me and the communications department, just me and my boss and a couple of people that were involved in this, getting people down to this little remote area in Alabama to visit these women, because the reality of it is, outside of the beautiful quilts and they're just being amazingly talented, they come from an area that lacks a lot of resources. Their income, I believe, before we intervened, was like $16,000 annually. So to me, it was mind-boggling, and I think Nest, as in general, that they can have these quilts that were old famous quilts that are on celebrities. You see it at the Met Gala, but then their average income was $16,000 a year. So my company was able to connect them with the brand Etsy, and they were able to have Etsy shops, individual Etsy shops where they could sell their quilts online. And that's been a partnership that's been awesome. I've been able to tell that story, the storytelling around that, how we got involved, how we've been able to help them, what they needed support. But overall, lately, again, this recent festival was to actually get people down to Alabama to see these quilts live and in person. I first finally got to meet these ladies offline and got to have conversations with them, got to see what the impact of our work, got to see what they're faced with every day and how they take it all in stride. They don't see it the same way. This is their lifestyle. They're used to it. But it was really rewarding to beyond the festival and getting people there using Facebook ads and storytelling and the data I just shared with you, like their income is this, and this is why you should help, buy the quilts here, and why they need your support and things like that, using data to tell that story and using data to move people to support these women who are basically famous. It was also just rewarding to, I think outside of that, it's just rewarding to know that you're finally giving them their flowers. They've been around for generations, and they've been doing this for generations, and people own their quilts and have them hanging up in their homes. But these women should be getting paid what they're due. So I think it was really rewarding to be there and meet that and be able to play a small part through comms, from helping with the website, helping with we use Classy, which is a fundraising platform to get tickets out and donations and things like that, to just the storytelling on pamphlets or on all the collateral you're going to actually have at the event and things like that. And then after the event, being able to report back and say, hey, this is what we did. This was successful. Now let's do it again, because we have the data to prove that this was successful. Now we're going to move forward and do this year after year after year, hopefully. I know we're planning for next year, at least. I can only speak for 2023. But just to be able to impact them and in short, impact American craft. They're a part of American craft, so we get to amplify what they've been doing. And that was actually just really rewarding for me. We faced a lot of challenges as far as in communications in the way of like definitely with around fundraising campaigns, especially. You never really know how they're going to go. You can plan, but when launch day comes, you never know if the story you're telling, whether you're using data. I mean, you're usually using data. There's some data point within the storytelling that you're using to move this crowd to raise funds for whatever specific thing you're doing. And on my business, we have a lot of different fundraisers going. Sometimes we're being responsive to a crisis. Sometimes it's just a general campaign again, or something we want to do, like the airing of the Clothes Festival I just discussed. But you never really know if people are going to engage. And I think for me, that's always nerve-wracking because your heart's in it. Again, working in with mission-driven organizations, working within nonprofits, we're I don't want to say we're empaths, but our heart is really in this work, and we're in this mission, and we're dedicated to it and committed to it. So it can really sting if the campaign doesn't do well, despite all the wonderful data you have and all the storytelling you've done around the data. There's also this approach of just being a good marketer. And not to say if it fails, you're not being a good marketer, but sometimes there's other things you're competing with in the world. There's definitely say it's Q4. Everyone's asking for donations right now. Giving Tuesday is at the end of the month. Everyone's competing for attention and dollars and things like that in the nonprofit world. So I wouldn't say it's a competitive nature in that way, but you're competing for the attention of different, I want to say your audience. So it can be you can do everything right and it still just not yield the results you want. And it can be, it can kind of tug at your heartstrings because like this is a good mission. You should support this mission. But you can't take it personally in that way, in the sense of everyone has a good cause and there's a lot of good to be done in the world. There's a lot of place for people to put their dollars and things like that. So I think that's a complication you can see, is just finding your audience, marketing to the right people, and telling your story where it really moves people. In that way, I think with social media, we've been able to do targeted ads that's been quite successful in that way. So using our data that we collect throughout the year, that you'll see we have at Nest, we have an upcoming impact report. Utilizing that data and sharing it with the appropriate audience that's going to engage and overall at the end support our mission. It can be hard to, find the right. It can be hard to kind of find the right, equation or the right way to, market yourself to kind of get people to move. So for a lot of the data, we have it at my current job at Nest, we have a team that does that. So they pull all the data and then we do the storytelling. We collect the testimonials from our artists and businesses and things like that. And then we present it in our impact report. So thank God I don't actually do the surveying in that way, but I'm the one that's going to tell the story moving forward, especially with my role. I do a lot of our social media, and I was just talking with our marketing committee recently. It's okay, this impact report is coming. How am I going to use this data and share it out to the world to, one, increase not just brand awareness for ourselves, but the artisans that are within our guild and that interact with us. We want for them to be able to get more sales. We want them to see business growth. We want them to sell out of everything they have, and we want them to be successful. We want them to thrive, not only using our resources, our programming and going through our programming, things like that, but by exposure on our social media channels, through our email marketing channels and things like that as well. So it's really, again, I didn't have to pull the data, but again, my job is to storytell around it, use it and put it back out into the world and show our impact. And I get excited. I'm a nerd in that way. I get excited to kind of read through everything because it really makes your work it makes you feel like, hey, I'm doing something. And I always see data as a number, but there's also, I spoke on it earlier, testimonials. I think there's something rewarding to actually hear from the businesses themselves that Nest came in my life and helped me be better in some way, or helped me make a change, and now I'm better off. And I think that is definitely hearing it live and in person. I got a chance to do that at my recent trip for the airing of the quilts. We got to also meet with some artisans in Birmingham, and they had a panel, and they all expressed how they started their business and how it's been thriving after Nest got involved. And it really feels good to know what you're doing, because when you're in the day-to-day of the work, there's 20,000 projects we're always working on where your head is spinning. You play a little part, especially in communications, you play a little part, you do a Facebook post, Instagram post, you might send out an email, you might write some copy for the website, and then that's it. And then maybe a couple weeks later, you see this news article about this great thing that you played a part in, like saying with airing of the quilts. These ladies were just in British Vogue. And I was like, when I was on the ground in Alabama, I was like, you guys are celebrities. They really are, though. They're in British Vogue, and you're hearing about the history behind the quilts. And we're really amplifying these women. They do the work, and they're the talented artists, and we're just helping get the story out. But it feels good to be a part of that and know that ultimately this brand, this awareness now they're getting is going to be able to increase the consumers they have that go buy from their Etsy shops, and increases their income, and that increasing that income allows them to do amazing things like pay for their children's college, get healthcare, the bare thing necessities that we take for granted. They don't always have the best access to. So, them getting this income or generating income through, just getting their message out and showing their talent is able to really increase their well-being. And for me, that is just the best feeling overall. So data helps do that. Absolutely, because it starts with the data. We can get the numbers. Again, we get the numbers. We're able to talk with them through surveys. We're able to, landscape mapping and sit and talk and things like that. And without that data, we couldn't show our impact to just put out a call to action. People, without the data, it backs up what we're saying. It just really proves that we're out here doing the work and we're doing good, and it shows why you should support not just us, but the artisans that we're representing. And I think, to me, it just feels amazing. Well, I think going to COVID, and when we were all going back to COVID, when we were all locked down in our houses, a lot of these small businesses, speaking for Nest and the Nest perspective, a lot of these small businesses had to halt their business. We heard it all across the world. We all were locked down in the house. People weren't going out shopping anymore. So it was really up to us to get people online. And going back to the G's Been Quilters, that was a way for income for a lot of people. They had to take their brick and mortar shops and figure out a way to transform it and go online. And as a part of that process of going online, you need marketing around that. There's a lot of stores online. There's a lot of things you can buy online. There's a lot of competition online. So there has to be some storytelling around that, which includes data, it includes testimonials. Speaking of testimonials, it's not even just testimonials. I know it's for everyone who uses Amazon. I don't know about you, but the first thing I go do before I buy a product is go through the reviews and things like that. That's all data in a way of just being able to learn about the product before you buy it, because you can't physically touch it. So outside of just, the online marketplace, there's this marketing that has to go into it. There's storytelling. Again, there's data and there's the descriptions and telling of what this is, because again, we can't touch it and we can't see it and things like that. All this that goes into play before we buy an item online. And for a lot of our artisans in that way, we had to help them do that. It's also photography. We had to get them photographers and things like that. So in short, I think the future, we're already online, but I think a lot of the brick and mortar shops are closing anyway. That was already going that route. I think COVID just exacerbated that, going online. So the future is digital, obviously. And we're also going into the metaverse. I don't know what that's going to look like. So I think we're leaving the physical world and now we're going into this digital world. That's a whole new thing that I'm actually excited about. Some people are still jumping on board. I'm trying to figure out how to get in there, even on the nonprofit side. And then also in regards to social media, where I spend a lot of time, influencer marketing is becoming a thing. We're still trying to grasp it. If you look around my kitchen, my living room, everything I have in there is because TikTok I scrolled across it on TikTok. And I thought it was a great, so especially in the nonprofit realm, we're learning how to use social media differently. We're learning how to catch up and use influencer marketing and have people be able to pursue, influence people to do good though. Right now I'm influenced to spend a whole bunch of money and, and have aesthetic looking apartment and things like that. But I would love to get a hold of the social media realm to really motivate people to act and to do good and really drive our mission online. So I'm trying to figure that out. But I think the future is online, and I think the future is just digital, and we're all competing for everyone's attention. Everyone's attention span is just so short in this digital space. And I think us as nonprofits, we all have to try to figure out how we're going to carve our space in this world. And I don't know if we've figured that out yet. I think we're trying. We're able on Instagram to show great imagery, especially at Nest. We have great imagery from across the globe that helps to kind of engage people in. And then going down that journey, then we have our captions, and we're going to put our data point and say, well, we were able to go here and we were able to increase their income. And then we're going to do some storytelling around that. With their increased income, they were able to send their kids to school, bring more food into the house, support their families. So that's kind of the journey on social media for us. I think in the nonprofit realm, we're all trying to figure out how to utilize that as much as the B2B companies are using it, and B2C companies are using it. I don't think we have a grasp of it like they do, but I also think we have different challenges than they do. Usually if you have a product, they know they want to buy it and that's it. We're asking people to give up their money, give up their time and things like that. And that's a little harder push. So I think we're just trying to figure out how to carve out that space. But of course, the future is digital. We're already leaning there. It's just trying to make space for everyone. And again, for us to carve out our space in it and find the people that want to do good in the digital world and figure out how we can amplify our message, increase brand awareness, and really just be able to support our artisans, or support, if you're in any nonprofit, support all the people that are looking for help from you. Be flexible. It's ever changing. I think that part can be exciting, but can also be equally stressful. Communications is fast paced. There's a lot of, definitely in the nonprofit realm, there's just so much you want to do. There's just so much, you need to do from any mission driven organizations, whether it's political or again at Nest, where, we're in the nonprofit realm. In that way, there's just so much happening in the world at all times, and it can be really hard to figure out what impact you can make where, and if you can do everything you want to do. Sometimes the reality is that we spread ourselves way too thin, and I think that's just for not speaking for nonprofits across the board. There's a lot of people that need help, even if you have a niche that you've narrowed it down to, we've narrowed it down to artisans, there's still so much work and still so much need in that realm. And we're one company, one organization of maybe 25 or 30 people. And the reality is sometimes we're not going to be able to get to it all. But I think we do our best to make impact where we can, and when we can we do our best to kind of make impact where we can. But with that, our head can spin in some ways, especially as communications people or people who work in communications. For me, there's always so many projects going on. They're all very rewarding though. So I think that's what makes us feel, again, going back to that good feeling and being able to do good. It's a privilege to do this work. It really is, but it can be stressful. You always want to do more than you actually have the capacity to do. But I think it's easier just to focus in on what you are able to do, be content with that, and take your time with that, finish that, and then move on to the next thing. We're not going to be able to do it all, but what we are doing is really good too.